we are ready and set to go. Okay, so today we are actually going to delve into this engagement manager and actually show you guys how to transition into installing your TaxLink software for Lacerte 2015. We're going to make sure that you guys are properly set up in the system to take full benefit of our integration with Lacerte and make sure that you guys are utilizing all the features of the engagement manager available to you. We're going to go through the installation setup process and then jump right into TaxLink's functionalities and then just common functionalities within the system for you guys. So just one more time before I begin, can everybody see my screen and hear me? Please say so by testing out the questions box. Someone, yes, perfect. Okay, thank you, Marina. All right, so let's get started. All right, guys, so I already have this test site set up. I have integrated 2013 and 2014 already, so I'm at a similar point to where you guys are, where I want to go ahead and activate the Lacerte integration with Lacerte 2015. A lot of you probably got an email blast that actually showed you how to a step-by-step on how to do this, but in case you are not sure how to do it, I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into doing that. So here's my little Lacerte 2014 module in my system tray. So I'm just going to exit this guy over here. And we're just going to go ahead, and I'm using Windows 10. So depending on your operating system, it may be a little bit different for you guys. So I love Windows 10 so far. I don't know about you guys. But I'm going to go ahead and jump into the control panel. And we're just going to go ahead and uninstall TaxLink. All right. Now that that's all done, we're ready to go ahead and install TaxLink 2015. So in that email that you guys got, it actually contained an MSI file, which I've actually saved locally for myself. So I'm just going to go and jump and run that installation. I believe I have it here. So it's going to look something like this. The link is going to actually download this for you. So we're just going to go ahead and run this installation. Okay, we're going to start off with the installation wizard. So we're just going to go ahead and hit next, next, and then it's going to go ahead and say, do you want to launch the program after installing? And we're going to go ahead and hit finish. There it is. Our little TaxLink clock icon is showing down below in our system tray. And it's popped up with a little message that says, hey, there's a new version of TaxLink. Let's go ahead and configure that now. So I'm going to go ahead and hit configure now. And based on your system speed, that might just be hiding behind a window like mine. So it's going to pop up with this window here. And this window is actually where you can make sure, just double check to make sure all the data paths are properly set up and mapped out for all your tax return types. If you don't have a line showing for 2015 for any of your tax return types, you can go ahead and hit Add Additional Path here to go ahead and tell BigTime and tell TaxLink where your data files are. If you're not very tech savvy, that's okay. Whoever installed your Lacerte file will know where those data files are. So if I'm in my Lacerte file and I go under Settings and Options, under the Setup tab, you should be able to see what drive your data paths are installed. A lot of you guys have this set up on a server, so it may be on a PX, whatever letter drive that's on your network. So just refer to your Lacerte installation to determine where those data paths are. Okay. And then for me, since we're already done with 2013 and 2014, I can go ahead and disable the synchronizations with this file and just keep 2015 synchronizing. So if I'm updating statuses, I only want to update and capture the updates from the 2015 year, but it's totally up to you if you want to keep those synchronizations going. Disabling these checkboxes is not going to delete any data from BigTime, so you can always turn these on at a later date or later time if you need them. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep this checked off and actually hit close. Okay, So after we map the data files, let's go ahead and get familiar with these functionalities in TaxLink. So if I left-click this clock icon with my mouse, it's going to open up this status message here. You're going to see the message that says this program is syncing your Lacerte data to BigTime. As long as it is running, changes made in Lacerte will be reflected in your BigTime system. And then underneath that, you can see a status message that says syncing 49 of 50. So depending on how many years you have enabled for synchronization, the TaxLink software is going to go ahead and iterate through all of your years to make sure that we sync the latest information to BigTime. After it is done with the action, I know the text is very small, probably for you guys, but it's going to give you a timestamp and date and how many returns it's synced. And the way that this TaxLink software works, and I'm not sure, just going to go ahead and make sure that that's very clear on how the software actually syncs. But every time I actually go ahead and update the status of a return and change a status. So if I change this return on Lacerte to a different status message, BigTime is constantly watching Lacerte. And every minute or so, we're going to check for changes on the file. And you'll notice right now it says synced 50 at this certain timestamp and the last check time. So after it's going to check again, this will update to tell you that it's synced however many. So in my case, it should sync 1 at the next check. So there it goes. It kicked off the sync. And then it went ahead and updated BigTime with that status code. So every time you guys are in Lacerte and updating statuses or you're updating address information, just simply opening a client within Lacerte and actually looking at the details. And if anything changes on that client record, when you go back to the main screen, that's when BigTime does its double check to make sure everything is still the same with that particular client. So every time those changes are happening, it's happening live, and we're constantly checking with this TaxLink software. You do not have to install this to multiple machines, but you can if you want to, in case you're unsure of the quality of the machine it's currently installed on. I do recommend if you have if it's not working on a server, if the users that set up the server cannot figure out the security on that server where TaxLink might not have issues with the drive, try installing it on a local machine where you can open up Lacerte. It's really your preference to go ahead and set up this installation of TaxLink. So you can install it in multiple environments. You can be fine to do that. So as far as system requirements, just make sure it's, of course, a Windows machine, and you should be good to go. Okay. All right. So we went ahead and installed TaxLink here, and it's actually detected my 2015 return. So I'm just going to refresh here on this page. And you'll notice here in my dashboard that we've got 51 returns for me. I'm not a heavy user of Lacerte, so I don't have that many. And we've got here our number of returns and the last date of our sync. Okay. So now that we have that set up, let's go ahead and jump straight into making sure BigTime is actually properly mapped and so forth for the next year. So we're going to go under My Company Integration. Okay. And we've updated this interface recently. We actually have a number of applications that we integrate with. So just to go ahead and go over those management of those settings, for Lacerte, simply click on the Lacerte icon. Okay, on this screen here, you're going to have a Manage button showing. So we're going to go ahead and click Manage. On this first tab here, we have our general settings for Lacerte and BigTime. The first drop-down at the top, and you guys can read this on your own later, but basically what it means is that we can actually synchronize with multiple years, but we will only grab the updates for client addresses from 1 year. So to choose the latest year, make sure you have this set to Lacerte 2015, so we can grab that latest address information. These two functions will allow you to actually import your preparer and staff preparers automatically from Lacerte to go ahead and assign BigTime engagements automatically based on those preparer and staff preparer fields within each individual client. So if you do not want those features enabled, you can uncheck these boxes here. The final setting here will allow you to lock updates in BigTime. Checking off this box will prevent your staff from editing assignments or current status, so that it actually just depends and will only update based on Lacerte's input, not on BigTime's input screen. We're going to go ahead and pick a year for our status code. Okay, so here we've got our 3 years. We want to go ahead and pick Lacerte 2015, and we've got a couple of numbered boxes here within this interface. So what you actually want to do is actually assign the name for your Lacerte status codes via the IDs within Lacerte. So we're going to go ahead and open up Lacerte, and let's take a look at our status code. I'm going to Settings, Options, and clicking on Status. Each status in Lacerte is related to a particular number. So what you want to do is back in BigTime, go ahead and make sure that the proper values are here assigned to the proper ID of that status code. So number 1 for me is Performed. Number 2 is Info Pending. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that this is all filled out. Okay, once that's done, okay, let's move on to the next tab over, Preparers. Now, on the first screen, we have the option to go ahead and automatically import any staff preparers to BigTime Engagements assignment field. So what you want to do, if you want that functionality, in the My Company staff list area, you want to go ahead and create your preparers and staff preparers as BigTime staffers. Then in this interface here, you want to go ahead and map out the BigTime staffers to those preparers in Lacerte. So just like the status codes when we were under Settings and Options, you want to go ahead under Preparers and make sure that you map number 1, for me is Monica, number 2 is Timmy, O'Toole, number 3 is Chris. So back in the BigTime interface, you want to make sure that all of those values are selected if you want those preparers information to automatically sync up. Now, if you're not interested in that functionality, you can skip this step. Okay? And then we're going to go ahead and let's go ahead and save. Great. Want to go ahead and close that out. And let's go back to our Engagement Manager. Now, if that's properly done, you should be seeing your status codes filled in here and not numbers. If you have not properly set up your status code, you will still see numbers here under Current Status, the column, until you properly set that into the integration screen. Okay. Okay, so now we're in BigTime. We've got our returns synced here. And I don't believe I have assignments really in my Lacerte file. So I don't have any assignments coming in yet. And I can totally look at that in a bit. But I don't think, I just performed my file from 2014, and I don't believe I've assigned anybody to these returns within Lacerte yet. So my assignments field is rather blank right now. But if you have assignments, you should see them here filling up within the Engagement Manager. Okay, so every client in the list will have 1 return per year. If you want to go ahead and bulk archive 2014 and 2013 engagements, we can go ahead and do that easily. So I'm going to go ahead and click this icon over here on the upper right. In the Engagement Manager, that is the ability to go ahead and live filter on each particular column. So each return will come in with its year in Lacerte, and then the type of return it is for each individual client. So if I want to go ahead and just filter and look at all of my 2014 returns, I can simply type in 2014 and hit Apply. You can see that my filter is active here by its red icon indicator, and then I can go ahead and select all here. Under Bulk Actions, I'm going to go ahead and archive. So this is one function we have here, bulk actions. I'm going to go ahead and archive those engagements. All of those will show up with a line through, and I can refresh. Since my live filter is still on, we're just going to go ahead and clear that out. And now I've got 2015 and some 2013 here, so I'm just going to do that one more time for 2013. And if you ever archive engagements by mistake, don't be afraid. You can easily unarchive an engagement. And I'll show you guys how to do that in a second. So here on our engagement dashboard, we've got our type, our stages, due date, overdue, today, this week, this month, and our assignment. If you ever accidentally archive an engagement you did not mean to archive, you can go ahead and click into Archive Hidden. Click on a line through engagement that is archived. And we're going to go ahead and simply click on Budget Date. And see here, we'll have 100% and archive. We're going to go ahead and just uncheck this archive checkbox and hit Save. And that should bring that guy right back up. So we've got our 2014 individual back on the engagement dashboard. I'm going to go ahead and archive again for my 2014 guy. Let's go ahead and refresh. Okay. So guys, so now that we've got our engagement manager displaying only our 2015 returns, and we've got our TaxLink software all set up to go ahead and synchronize our 2015 year, let's actually look at a couple of other functions here. And then we're going to go into actually mapping out our Lacerte statuses to our engagement stages so that this, this engagement manager screen can look a little more relevant and useful. So we're going to go under here, and I'm going to right-click, and we're going to talk about briefly these functionalities available to you guys. On the top, we have Synchronize All Tax Returns. If for any reason somebody exited the TaxLink software and it was not running and therefore unable to capture the latest updates that everybody's been doing in Lacerte, you can run this action here to go ahead and have BigTime sync and look at all the returns. It's going to check for any changes and update BigTime. So that is the one troubleshooting step you can do. If there is something that is not captured in BigTime, you can run the Lacerte, the TaxLink Synchronize All Tax Returns. The second function we have here is Synchronize Statuses. If the number of status codes change significantly within your file, you want to run a Synchronize Statuses before you go under My Company Integrations and mapping out those status codes. It's not often you'll have to do this, as a lot of the users in Lacerte rarely change the hierarchy of their status codes very often, from my experience. So this is one that kind of sync that you won't have to do very often, if at all. These are going to actually open up the configuration folder and program folders of this program. It's, I don't believe you guys will ever have any reason to do that. Tech support may, but you guys do not have to delve into here. Pausing TaxLink is actually going to go ahead and pause the updates that BigTime can detect. So pausing it is kind of like leaving it in your system tray, but actually telling TaxLink to stop watching for updates. You might want to do that if you are creating dummy data in Lacerte and playing around, kind of like making a copy of a return that you don't want to come into BigTime. So if you're making copies and so forth and playing around with Lacerte, you can pause TaxLink so that it's not capturing or bringing in your new copied engagements or returns. And then finally, we have Update TaxLink. Running that Update TaxLink will check for updates on our server, and if there are any updates, we'll prompt you to go ahead and run the updates on TaxLink. Okay. Of course, we have Configure, which will take us back to those data path mappings. And then signing in and signing out is a way to go ahead and sign out of your admin credentials. So if anyone ever leaves the company who is the BigTime system administrator, you can go ahead and log out of that user and put in the proper BigTime administrator credentials here. And of course, exit is to exit the program. Okay? So I hope that was very clear. And let's go back into BigTime, the Engagement Manager. So now we've got all this data. Let's go ahead and actually map out our status codes. So to do this, we're going to go ahead and on the left-hand side, we've got an Edit button next to our types and an Edit button next to our stages. Clicking either of these Edit buttons will take you to the same place. So here we have our Lacerte types showing, and then a bunch of status codes, depending on how many years you've integrated here. So I've got a couple of, so I've got status codes here from 2015, and then all of them are actually under not started. So I actually want differentiate, like kind of a way for BigTime to detect, one status code means it's in process. One status code means it's under review. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and map these status codes out. I'm going to click on the pencil icon here. Now, in this interface, we're looking at Lacerte 1041, and we're going to go ahead and to map these status codes out, we're just going to, if you hover over these values here in that stippled area, your little icon is going to change, indicating that you can click and drag it. So, info pending for me is going to mean in process, and I can go ahead and move these guys around. And then let's talk about what this eventually does. So we're looking at Lacerte 1041. Everything was under not started to begin with. I'm going to save my changes here. Let's go back to the types and then back to the Engagement Manager. And let's take a look at Lacerte 1041. And it looks like I only performed my individual. Let's actually do that for our 1040. We'll just do it for 2 status codes. Like a little difficulty here. But let's go back here. Move forward. So here, those status codes are going to indicate whether or not they should fall under these stages. So, for example, since this return is with the current status of Test 1, and Test 1 is actually mapped out to a particular stage, if I am to click on a stage within BigTime to only focus on the returns in that stage, then it's going to actually make that return fall under this particular stage. And you can actually filter and accumulate filters by going ahead and multi-clicking the types to go ahead and accumulate how much information you want displayed in front of you with a particular stage. So we can go ahead and uncheck values so we don't look at those other types of returns, and we can recheck values to actually show more information under these spaces. And now we actually have the ability to go ahead and view archived returns. So if they're archived, they're going to drop into this archived stage, and we can go ahead and view at any 1040 or 1041s that are archived and so forth. So actually checking off these values, we can go ahead and take a look at what everyone is working on, when are they due, and what individual is assigned those returns. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and uncheck these filters, and let's start up here. If I am to click and manage my engagements and update statuses and notes on it, I will have to click on the engagement name. If you're an administrator, you actually have the ability to click directly into the client's name to open up that client in a solo view. And it's going to look like this, where it takes up your full screen and you're seeing your client's information. Do not get confused by this. These are not your returns. To see your returns, make sure that you actually click on the engagement name to go ahead and view the current status and the types and who is assigned to it and whether or not it's low or high priority, and the ability to go actually add in notes specific for those returns. On your Lacerte engagements that come into BigTime, you will also have a tax data tab in addition to the general functions of each individual BigTime engagement. So non-Lacerte engagements will typically only have general info and budget dates. but Lacerte engagements will have the tax data tab. Any information captured by Lacerte will flow into the proper fields here, and then these fields will flow up into the BigTime interface here. So if you have fees within captured in within Lacerte, those fees will flow up here within your budget dates screen underneath the fee budget area. And then if there are any preparers and you have those settings to actually automatically import those preparers as assigned to, you will see the preparer and staff preparer available here within your BigTime engagement. However, if you want to manage the assignments directly here within the Lacerte Engagement Manager, BigTime Engagement Manager screen, you can go ahead and check off as many BigTime staffers as you want to go ahead and assign these engagements to individuals, and then go ahead and it will pop up into their engagement managers, and you can go ahead and see what that user is working on by clicking on their name. You can do this in mass, so not doing it one by one, by checking off each engagement within BigTime. And then under here, we can go under bulk actions to reassign these engagements. It'll tell you the amount of engagements that you are reassigning under bulk actions. And then here you can go ahead and pick those staffers to map these over to. So now we have these 4 engagements assigned to this specific user, and it's moved from unassigned to this particular staffer in the assignment buckets area. Okay, let me go ahead and actually quickly make another staffer so we can assign to other people. I'm going to go ahead and give it a first and last name, and then an email address. I'm going to go ahead and add them over here, and let's go back to our engagement dashboard. We're going to find their name added under the assignment area, and then I can go ahead and just click on see what is currently unassigned in my firm. So I can go ahead and bulk check a couple of the returns here, reassign them, and pick that preparer. And now the amount of unassigned returns have fallen into the assignments for this particular user. A bit about the default permissions for our lowest level security group. When you add a staffer in the staff list and you invite them within the staff list, they're typically under the Everyone Security group. These users do not have access to create engagements. They don't have access to delete engagements and have very few editing permissions within each particular engagement. So you can actually modify their security within the staff list so that they can get access as a task administrator, so that they can edit, create engagements on their own directly in the screen. So I really recommend inviting a test user under a personal email account so you can play around with security and permissions in BigTime and get comfortable with what your users are seeing, so that you can go ahead and make sure that they're able to use this screen to its fullest. And if you ever had issues with giving access or granting access that you want your users to see, you can always email support@bigtime.net, so you can go ahead and say which user, what they should see, and what they're currently not seeing, so we can go ahead and troubleshoot that for you guys. Okay? All right, so let's talk about actually creating non-Lacerte type engagement. So I'm going to actually create my own bucket here for underneath my types, so I can manage more types of engagements. I'm going to go ahead and hit edit once again, and we're back at this familiar screen, and I'm going to add another engagement type. Let's call this bookkeeping. Bookkeeping is going to fall at the bottom here, so you can scroll all the way to the bottom, and then here we can hit our pencil icon. Here we will not have any Lacerte imported statuses, but we will create a default status code for each particular phase within BigTime. So our under review phase or stage within BigTime has one status code called under review. You can always delete these defaults here, so you don't have to use these status codes generated by BigTime, but if you want to create your own status codes, just simply click Add New Code directly underneath any of these phases and give it a name. So let's say, instead of under review, I'm going to say pending approval. I'm going to go ahead and save and actually push this under the proper bucket. I'm just going to actually delete that status code. Okay. And then let's go back to our engagement manager. So we've got no engagements underneath that phase. So I'm going to go ahead and create an engagement. Let's go ahead and hit Add Engagement. We're going to go ahead and pick a client. So I'm going to go ahead and pick this guy here. And we're going to go ahead and call this, let's say I just wanted to create this as phase 1. And we're going to assign it the type of bookkeeping, and we can say not started, and the test staffer should have this assigned to him, and I'm going to have this due on August 17th. So this gives him plenty of time to actually prepare for this assignment. We're going to go ahead and next to the Add button, we're going to either click Add in New, Add in Copy, or Add in Open. Add in New is going to create the engagement right away and actually give you a blank form to create more. Add in Copy will go ahead and actually create and copy the information so you can easily switch the name or assignments. You can create multiple more easily. And then Add in Open is simply allowing you to create and open that engagement so you can enter in more information. So you can enter in notes here about the engagement, what they should, what are the requirements for it, and then we can go ahead and set the priority. Set whether or not should be enabled for time and expense entry here, or both. And then here we actually have the ability to enter in custom fields. So if you've never created custom fields before, you click Add New Custom Field, and you can actually create your own fields to track against in the Engagement Manager. So let's say, trying to think of what we would track here. Let's just say it's some sort of date field that we have to track on this engagement. And I'm going to go ahead and actually hit the pencil icon after I give it a name. And let's give it the field type of date. I'm going to go ahead and save my field. So now I have a little additional calendar picker here to go ahead and track information against this engagement. Now, underneath our custom fields, we actually have an activity log as well. So as users are updating the statuses or making changes, we have a timestamp and the user that made the change available to you guys here. All right, so back onto my bookkeeping task. I'm just going to focus on my bookkeeping types and just have this checked off. I'm going to click back in here, and we're going to go ahead and actually update the status to in process. If I click back into the activity log, we can see that the updated status has been captured to in process on this particular date stamp by this user. Okay? So there's a couple of neat functionalities under general info alone, and then of course you want to capture in your budgeting information. So if you want to budget the amount of hours and fees expected to incur on this particular engagement, you want to go ahead and enter in that information here. So I expect the amount of hours this should take my user to actually complete this engagement will be entered here. If they're billable to a particular client, so you want to bill that amount later, or just say, you know, I think it should cost us, not a cost, but actually it should be worth this amount here. And when I run a timesheet or a budget estimate status report in BigTime, I can see how many hours have actually been entered against this engagement versus how much I estimated initially and what is remaining. Okay, so that estimate information is entered. So now that we have our estimate entered into our particular engagements, we've created an engagement and assigned them to particular users. We want to make sure that they can actually log time to these engagements so that we can actually capture estimated versus entered. So to do that, let's go to our timesheet really quick. And if you're a new user or if you're newly invited to BigTime, you'll be prompted with a show me how tutorial, but I'm going to skip this for now. And we're going to go ahead and click the cog wheel here on this screen. And of course, you must be an administrator to do this. And any changes you make here are universal for everyone. So we're going to go ahead and add this field here. The default name is task, but I'm going to go ahead and call it engagement, so it's no confusion. Okay, so when your users are logging time to these particular engagements, they can actually do it directly here from this engagement manager by clicking on this clock icon, so they can manage their status updates as well as enter in their hours. So for this date, I want to go ahead and enter in a couple of notes here. Let's go ahead and save that here. I forgot to go back to my timesheet. I should see all of these fields filled in for me in addition to my notes. So it depends on their preference. Some people prefer logging in their time directly from the timesheet screen. You could actually go ahead and trigger in and enter in your timesheets directly within this engagement manager screen and actually never have to leave this screen at all, because here you can set up your budgets, you can log your time, and actually view the billing contact information underneath your client just by clicking on the client's name. So a lot of neat functionality is available to the system administrator user within BigTime. And then, of course, if you've created custom fields or you want to actually view at a glance information more than what's currently available to you by default, you can actually add more fields to your view. So here we can go ahead and add start date, percent completed, all those notes you're entering. All these available fields are here available to add underneath this cogwheel. So if we go ahead and add our estimated hours, our fees, our custom fields are down below. We can go ahead and just check off those values and actually add them here to our view. So if I want to put my estimated hours directly next to the engagement name so that my users know exactly how many hours are estimated on this client, I can do it directly here. So let's look at our bookkeeping one that we're playing around with. We've got our engagement name, the amount of hours easily displayed for the user, client name, and the current status, as well as the due date. So when this particular user logs in, they can go ahead and take a look at all of their assigned engagements, as well as go ahead and actually sort by priority. And that is a key kind of field here that I want to go ahead and add to this view. So let's go ahead and add priority as well. Let me go ahead and hit apply. So here we've got that this user has a high priority task, and if we had multiple engagements assigned to them, low, medium, high, we can go ahead and actually click on the header to go ahead and sort by that value. So all of these fields here, as long as you don't have live filter turned on, are actually sortable. So let's go ahead and view everything in the system so far. You'll notice that my engagements are grouped by clients, and to achieve that, you can go ahead and just simply click on the client name so that you can see all the engagements underneath it. The green text is the client name. The blue hyperlink text with the year is your engagements within BigTime. Okay, so some clicking can group, and clicking, I believe, in a few. Some are group enabled and some are just sort enabled, like priority. So if I were to go ahead and sort my priority column here, I can see one is high priority and the rest are low currently within the system. Okay. Now, if you're having weekly meetings or you're talking to your staffers about what outstanding tasks they have assigned to them, you can easily export this information to PDF to kind of send it to them as an attachment into an email, or just go ahead and walk over and talk to the employee about their outstanding tasks. So to do that, you can go ahead and clicking on the staff member's name and then exporting that information to PDF. Depending on your system settings, it may print out in a different way. My computer system is actually configured to go ahead and download it via the browser, so I can go ahead and easily export that information that that user is currently assigned to, and print it out in a nice report available here with the current fields on my dashboard. Okay. And then now that we've created a single occurring engagement, let's go ahead and add a recurring engagement. Recurring engagements are actually pretty neat because you can go ahead and make kind of similar to a recurring meeting within Outlook or any mail service calendar provider. A recurring engagement is allowing you to go ahead and map out a couple of months ahead of time annually, and you can make them auto-recur so that they never stop creating themselves. So let's go ahead and make one of these recurring engagements within BigTime. I'm going to go ahead and actually pick a client here. So I'm going to go ahead and pick this one. And then we're going to call this actually monthly bookkeeping. And we're going to call it under the engagement type bookkeeping and give it the initial status and not started. And we can go ahead and assign this to a couple of users I know will be on it for the following month. And let's go ahead and give it a scope of kind of start and end date for this entire series. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this will begin today and actually end at the end of the year. Okay? After you've entered in the start and end dates for your entire engagement series, you want to go ahead and tell the system how many engagements it should occur and actually create within the series. So I'm going to click on monthly here and actually say that on every first of the month, I want an engagement to be created. And let's go ahead and start with that. But actually in the monthly scope here, we have the ability to multi-check up to 3 of these values and accumulate them, so you can make it occur on the first and final of each month, or on the first and then every 1 month from the start date. So if I were to check off these 2 values, it would be February 1st and February 14th. Then March 1st and then March 14th would be the occurrences within that series because of the start date here. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and tell the system to go ahead and create more engagements after the last occurrence is archived. So this is a little bit tough to understand, I know, but bear with me. We're going to go ahead and actually create and show you what I mean by auto-recur. So I'm going to say, yes, let's go ahead and extend it for 1 quarter once the series is finished. Now, by looking at my engagement manager right now, you'll notice that these guys don't have a red flag indicator, but this guy does, telling me that it is a recurring engagement for that client here. I can go ahead and actually click on here on this engagement name, and we're looking at the first occurrence. So the first occurrence of this series is on February 1st. The last occurrence date seems to be December 1st, 2016. We've got 11 remaining occurrences. On the budget date screen, I can go ahead and click Edit Series so we can look at the series master level. Under the series master level, we can go under Budget/Timelines, scroll to the bottom, and actually go ahead and view all the occurrences in the series. So we've got the first occurrence is February 1st. And that is the only engagement occurrence that will display on the engagement dashboard for right now until February 1st is completely done. Once February 1st is marked archived or completely done, then the next occurrence will automatically appear on the dashboard so that the user knows what's coming next for that client. So let's go ahead and actually go ahead and mark this as archived. Okay? And then let's move my due date over so you guys can easily see what's happening. Okay, so we've marked February 1st as archived using the status code. And we can actually do it via the bulk actions like we did earlier. So whatever your preference is to easily close out an engagement, you can do it via the status update like I just did now, or via the bulk actions. So let's do it via bulk actions. Let's say March has already passed. And I've actually completed that engagement occurrence on March. I'm going to go ahead and under bulk actions, mark this as archived. And then BigTime will auto-create that next engagement for the next month so that each and every user assigned a recurring engagement always knows how to prioritize their upcoming tasks and are never surprised by what's coming due in the next couple of months. So let's go ahead and click on the occurrence level once again, where we can enter in our notes, our priority, our custom field information, or our budget dates area. We can go ahead and view this at the occurrence level, but always jump into the series master, and we can go ahead and see where we're at within the series master. So if I want to go ahead and just bulk archive a couple of these here, because I know that they're already done, and I actually want to show you guys what happens when we archive the last occurrence, let's go ahead and do that here. So now I'm going to refresh, and now we're at the last date here at the end of the year. Let's pretend we time traveled and archived all of those. We already finished everything. We're awesome for 2016. Let's go ahead and archive this guy too. Oops. And there we have it. It has auto-created more occurrences past our designed due dates on each individual occurrence. So if I am to open up my occurrence, I can see next year on January, and I have accidentally changed the date. But don't worry, it won't capture my change. So I'm going to cancel, go back out, and let's go and click into Edit Series once again. We've got our historical information that's been archived, and then we've got a quarter of time of engagements auto-created. So as you continuously archive the next engagement, and when it is the last occurrence in the series, as long as you have that setting that allows it to auto-recur, it'll go ahead and continuously create more engagements and extend this automatically for you. I hope that makes sense here so far. I don't even see questions popping up, so either I'm doing a really good job or everyone is just really confused right now. So, all right, guys. So we went into how to install TaxLink 2015. We went through the setup process of installing TaxLink, the functions within TaxLink, how the sync works, how to map out in the integrations portion your listed status codes, your preparers, and those functions on the general menu. We went in the engagement manager and we talked about how to create engagements in BigTime that are not listed engagements. We talked about how to map out your status codes for particular stages on your dashboard so that these numbers actually mean something. And I'm trying to think, we actually added a custom field, added it to our view. We can go ahead and let's just make sure I talked about all these. Under bulk engagements, we did archive, we did reassign. We have the update status function, which is pretty straightforward. If you want to bulk update multiple engagements with a different status code, you can do that by bulk checking multiple engagements, hitting update status, and then pick the appropriate status code here. In update status, you can actually do both status and assignments. So if you want to do it all in one go with your selected engagements, you can do bulk update status. We've got remove assignments and, of course, delete. So if you ever accidentally click delete, it's going to actually permanently delete that, but it'll ask you, are you sure? So if you ever accidentally click it, don't worry, you can just say no, and we won't delete that engagement for you. But delete is permanent if you do select yes. Oh, yeah, sure. So we got a question about activities. It probably came up because a lot of people are like, okay, engagements, activities, what's the difference really, and why, what are they here for? So on everybody's screen, no matter what security level, you actually have the ability to go ahead and track a kind of just a simple to-do kind of list. So if you're trying to communicate internally these BigTime clients or these engagements, you can go ahead and open up your little envelope at the upper right and actually go ahead and compose a message internally to any of your staffers. So I can go ahead and actually click on how this activity relates to a particular client by selecting the client name. And I can go ahead and say, can you please follow up with this client on this particular engagement, test staffer. I need this done by tomorrow, so please call them at this particular number because they asked for you. So please be a dear and do that. And as soon as I hit save, it's going to go ahead and pop that message directly within BigTime with a little number 1, and then if they click it, they can go ahead in there and actually mark it as completed for you. So within BigTime, you can actually see any outstanding activities on the client itself. I can't remember what client I picked. I think I picked Lourdes. I don't remember. Let me see if I did it here. Yep. So here's my activity, and I can see that it's still open. And if someone were to mark it completed, let's see, it will actually make it disappear until you say show completed here within the client. And then, of course, if you want to see, okay, what is a particular staffer working on, for what activities did I send them? Are they done doing it yet? I can look at my company staff list, click on the staff member's name, and actually show completed here, view any outstanding activities for that staffer, and export that to a PDF or XLS file if needed. We'll be expanding on this feature soon. I would expect we'll be adding more reports available in the Report Center, but for now, you can see those reports on the staffer and client itself. Okay, a lot of people are kind of filling in questions about, I've missed the first 10 minutes. If you have missed any portion of this webinar, you can actually send an email to support@bigtime.net, and I can send you, this is a recorded session, so I can send you a copy of this webinar. So if you've missed that, go ahead and actually shoot us over an email at support@bigtime.net, and we can go ahead and address that via email, and I'll send you a recorded copy of this webinar. Yep, so this one is another question about I missed the first few minutes. That is going to be available if you request a recorded copy to support@bigtime.net. Let me just actually put that in the chat box. So you can just, so everybody should be able to copy that from the chat box, support@bigtime.net, and I can go ahead and send you a copy of that. If you were to create a dummy client from Lacerte and TaxLink was actually running and it brought it in, if you delete it from BigTime, it will not bring it back again. It will stay gone to address that question. If we change a client name in BigTime, does it break the tax link with Lacerte? No, not at all. So we actually have a unique identification with that client on the back end, and it's not dependent on the client. So you can actually change the name in BigTime, and it will keep that connection with that Lacerte client. Does 2015 TaxLink overwrite billing contacts you created? That is an interesting question. I do not believe so. Let me see. So depends here. Let's see here. I believe it should append it to your clients. If you're a QuickBooks and a Lacerte user, it should append it. So it would, in the back end, do a merge. When you connect the two programs initially, it will do a merge if the names are exactly the same. So it should append those changes, not overwrite, Shannon. But that is my understanding of it. Yeah, no problem. All right, guys. I think I've addressed all the questions. Wow, that was great. So if you guys missed any portion, once again, feel free to shoot out to support@bigtime.net. We're here to help you. Any other questions that come up while using the software, don't hesitate to reach out to us. It's best to email us. It's a quicker response time. You can call us, but it can take up to 24 hours for a call back, depending on how busy we are over here. Sending an email gives us a chance to go ahead and research it, test it, and make sure we're giving you guys the best answers. So once again, thank you for joining this webinar. We're actually coming to a close here. And I thank you again for joining the BigTime family. And if you've already been with us for a while, thanks for the support. And we hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you for choosing BigTime. And this is Monica signing off.